Welcome back to Berry Life. As the air is getting crisper and the leaves start to fall, there's nothing better than cozying up with a warm bowl of soup, right? That's why today we're sharing with you 8 delicious and nutritious vegan and vegetarian soups that are perfect for the fall. These soups are not only packed with seasonal veggies, but are also loaded with plant-based protein to keep you feeling full and satisfied. From a creamy leek and potato to a classic French onion, each recipe is super simple to make, bursting with flavor, and guaranteed to warm you up from the inside out. So grab your ladle, let's get cooking and bring on the fall vibes. Make sure to stay tuned for all 8 recipes. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more wholesome meal ideas. Let's dive in. On today's episode, we're making Tofu Udon Noodle Soup with mushrooms and vegetables. It's an umami-packed, warm and comforting bowl of goodness. And for the best part, it comes together in minutes. So let's get started. We'll start by soaking some shiitake mushrooms. When we have extra shiitake mushrooms or any mushrooms, we usually dehydrate them at home. These are really good to have around for soups and stocks. We'll let these soak for 20 minutes while we prepare the rest of the ingredients. What type of mushroom goes best with a jacket potato? Buttons. Next, we have some fresh shimeji mushrooms, both brown and white. We'll cut off the stem and separate them like this. These mushrooms are pretty delicate, so we cut, separate, and gently wash under running water. And the same thing with the white shimeji. For a little bit of heat, we have 2 Thai chilies, or bird's eye chilies. We'll chop these fine. You can leave these in larger pieces if you want to tone down the heat. This recipe is more of a guideline. It's a great way to upcycle your vegetables into a quick, yet healthy and satisfying meal. We also have a couple of these vibrant, long, hot red peppers. These are just a little bit spicier than the mild red bell peppers. For these, we'll go with the diagonal cut. This is more for presentation purposes. It looks nice in the final product, and it's a little bit easier to eat with. As for our greens, we have some bok choy. These will cut off at the base, which makes it easier to separate the leaves. Sometimes there is dirt trapped inside, and this makes it easier to clean them properly. We'll just toss these in a strainer and run them under cold water. We also have some snow peas. We're gonna go ahead and snip off the woody ends. They're kind of chewy. We'll just go with a handful, about a cup. And of course, no Asian soup would be complete without some green onions. We're going to use both green and white parts. The white parts are similar to a typical onion. We'll dice them small and cook them in oil to soften. And for the green parts, we'll cut them into inch-long tubes and add them towards the end of cooking. That way they stay crisp and give a nice bite. Today we also have some leftover broccoli, so we'll add these as well by cutting them into florets, which will help bulk up the soup. And for our aromatics, we have some cilantro. Since we're adding it to the soup, we'll add the stems as well. There's a lot of flavor in the stems, and they'll soften in the soup. The stems we'll chop finely, and for the leaves, we'll give them a rough chop. For our protein, we have a block of extra firm tofu. You can use firm or medium firm as well. We avoid the silken tofu for this because it breaks apart too much in the soup. It's great in different places like sundubu, but not here. We'll cut these into bite-sized pieces, about 1 inch across. With that, our mise en place is ready. In a large pot over medium heat, we'll add 2 tablespoons of cooking oil. And to it, we'll add 1 tablespoon of minced garlic and 1 tablespoon of grated ginger, along with our Thai chilies. and the whites of the green onion. We'll cook this until fragrant, should take about 60 seconds. This will infuse the oil and build the base flavors. Keep an eye on the temperature. We don't want anything to burn or brown here. Then we'll add our rehydrated shiitake mushrooms, squeezing out the water. Be sure to save this water, there's a lot of flavor in there, which we'll add a little bit later. Mushrooms are available year-round. However, the prices fluctuate quite a bit. When they go on sale, we buy in bulk, and then dehydrate what we don't use right away. Dehydrating is our absolute favorite way of preserving ingredients, and it saves a lot of money. We'll allow the mushroom to cook through and soften a little. Along with the shiitake, we'll also toss in the fresh shimeji mushrooms. We like shimeji mushrooms for this soup because they're bite-sized and shaped similar to noodles. Feel free to make it your own and use your favorite shrooms. I used to not like mushrooms, but over time, they really grew on me. And add some salt and black pepper. The salt will help wick away the moisture and at the same time season them and help the mushrooms firm up. Here we're creating layers upon layers of flavor to create an amazing umami-rich base for the soup. Then we'll add our vegetable broth, 8 cups. You can also use water if you don't have vegetable broth on hand. Our soup base already contains tons of flavor. We'll also add 1 teaspoon of miso paste. Miso paste is a fermented soybean paste, and it makes the soup more hearty and savory. We always keep miso paste in the refrigerator. It's a great way to quickly add a ton of umami flavor to any recipe, and it lasts a long time. We'll also add a tablespoon of dark soy sauce. It helps with the color and adds a hint of sweetness that complements the otherwise savoriness of the soup. Then we'll also add a couple of tablespoons of soy sauce. If you're watching your sodium intake, you'll want to adjust the recipe if your broth already contains salt. And lastly, we'll add the water from our shiitake mushrooms. Don't let that flavor go to waste. Bringing the soup to a boil, we'll add the snow peas, along with the broccoli florets and the red peppers, along with tofu, and allow it to cook for 2 minutes. This should soften the vegetables just a little without overcooking them. The extra firm tofu can have a grainy texture. By boiling it, it will improve the texture, making it a little softer and smoother on the palate. It'll also flavor the tofu, as it will absorb all that great flavor from the soup. Now we'll do a taste test and adjust the seasoning if needed. This is great. Now we can finally add our udon noodles. These are already cooked. We removed them from the freezer and thawed them out a little bit. We're adding them about 30 seconds before turning off the heat. Using a pair of chopsticks, we'll just gently separate them and allow them to heat through. We recommend adding noodles closer to serving, otherwise they tend to get overcooked and soggy. Then we'll turn off the heat. We'll add the bok choy, the greens of the green onions, and fresh cilantro. That's it. Our tofu udon soup is ready. There you have it, tofu udon noodle soup with vegetables and mushrooms. A delicious taste of Japan in the comfort of your own kitchen. Today we're diving into a warm and comforting bowl of goodness, leek butterbean soup. Perfect for cozy nights or when you need a little pick-me-up. It's super easy, so let's get started. It's hard to imagine soup without some type of croutons. I mean, is it even legal to have soup without croutons? Certainly not at the Berry Kitchen. So here we have a hearty French country style bread. We'll cut it into 1-inch cubes. You can also use a hearty Italian or sourdough for this. One of our favorites is a multi-grain country style bread that we've used with our roasted tomato soup. Check out the link above. We're making these large cubes, but you can try a smaller cut if you like, or even a different shape, as long as you're having fun. Then transfer them to a foil-lined tray. This one's from our handy-dandy air fryer. Add some olive oil. You don't need a whole lot, just enough to coat the bread lightly. It prevents it from burning, along with salt and pepper for seasoning. Nobody likes a boring crouton. Boring croutons are usually just unseasoned or underseasoned croutons. Then give it a toss and spread it out evenly. Now we're off to the air fryer. where we'll use the bake setting and bake it around 400 degrees Fahrenheit or 200 degrees Celsius, keeping an eye on it to ensure they're not burning. Then 10 minutes before the croutons are done, we'll dip some fresh rosemary in olive oil and toss it into the Inferno to toast along with the croutons. What did the bread say to the air fryer? I'm just here for my tan. That's it. GBD. Golden brown and delicious. We'll allow the croutons to cool off, so we don't burn ourselves in the next step. The rosemary smells amazing. We'll take it off the stem by going in the opposite direction, and then break it apart between my hands. The fringe benefit of this is your hands smell like rosemary. Rosemary, thyme, and sage. These earthy herbs are a reminder of autumn, bringing a sense of renewal, warmth, and simple joy, evoking memories of holidays past and family gatherings. Then, taking it to the next level, a little bit of lemon zest. Where the rosemary provides an earthy aroma to the croutons, the lemon zest just brightens up the day. This soup is as much about the aroma as it is taste. That's it, our rosemary lemon croutons are ready. Now for the soup, we'll need just the basics, starting with leeks, about 6 of them. We'll use both the whites and the green parts. We'll start by separating the two. Did you know in Wales, leeks are considered a national vegetable? What vegetable is not allowed on cruise ships? Leeks, of course. We'll go ahead and set the greens aside for now while we cut the whites into rings about 3/4 of an inch in length. We're going to keep the rings intact. They'll provide a nice texture and bite in the final product. Look at how beautiful these rings are. Food is as much a visual art as it is about taste, texture, and aroma. Now as for the greens, we want to make sure they're thoroughly cleaned. There could be dirt hiding inside. We'll separate the layers and then run them under water. Since they're a little bit tough or fibrous, we want to cut against the grain and do a fine dice, or even a chiffonade, which are these ribbons. Leek is a really underrated ingredient. They have a subtle aroma and a sweet onion flavor, which makes sense since both onions and leeks are part of the allium family, along with garlic, shallots, and chives. We love cooking with them. Check out the link above to our incredibly creamy and satisfying leek potato soup. Along with the leeks, we'll need 1 red onion. This will bring a spicy element to the bowl. Similar to the greens, we'll go for a thin slice. Not sure exactly what this cut is called, but we like to call it the 1/4 moon slice. It helps the layers separate into these small pieces. The outer layers of the onion contain quercetin, an antioxidant that helps fight inflammation, lowers blood pressure, and helps protect against heart disease and certain cancers, so avoid over-peeling. And for our herbs, we're going with a handful of fresh parsley. Just give it a rough chop. This soup is about bringing simple ingredients together and quickly making a hearty and delicious meal out of it, in the middle of a busy day, week, or weekend. So don't overthink it. And that's all there is to the prep. Alright, time to soup it up. In a large pot over medium heat, we'll add a couple of tablespoons of olive oil and allow it to heat up. Then we'll add the red onions, and saute until the onions are softened. You can cook them slightly longer if you'd like. This helps the caramelization and brings out their sweetness. Then we'll add the fibrous greens. We're adding these before the whites because they're a little bit tough and chewy, so it's best to give them a little bit more time to cook. I love how the heat brings out the vibrant green color of the leeks here. Once they're cooked down a little, we'll add our rings of leeks and stir. We want to be gentle here because the rings can separate. We like to use a silicone spoon or spatula as they're less likely to cut into any of the leeks. Then we'll add the butterbeans. These are lima beans that have been boiled. They'll provide hearty substance and protein to our aromatic bowl of soup. Now we'll also add 4 cups of our homemade vegetable broth. Butterbeans originated from Peru, where they're known as limas. They were cultivating them even before corn, along with half a cup of parsley, saving the rest for later. And not to forget the seasoning. We'll add salt and pepper to taste. The vegetable broth has salt, so we'll only add as needed. It's good to add salt a little at a time. It's easier to add than remove. This looks good. We can now cover and bring it to a boil. Once the soup is boiling, we'll allow it to boil for about 5 minutes, or until the leek whites are cooked through. We'll continue being careful as we stir, as the leeks have only gotten more fragile. We can check for doneness with a knife. If you can cut through it easily, it's done. This is perfect. Now we'll turn off the heat and add 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. You can also add lemon juice if that's what you have. For the full written recipe, check out the video description box below, or visit us at berryberrylife.com. And if you would please rate our recipe, we would greatly appreciate it. It really helps others find our recipes when searching. Now for a taste test. Needs a little bit more salt and pepper. This soup smells amazing, and done in only 20 minutes. That's it. Leek butterbean soup is done. This recipe is on our regular rotation, and we make tweaks here and there based on our mood or what we have on hand. Like all the best comforting recipes, you have to make it the way you like it. Today we're improvising with some walnuts and a little bit of truffle oil. We've also had it with some spinach and sweet corn. You can enjoy it as it is, or toss it into a blender and puree it. Whatever makes you happy. There you have it, leek butterbean soup. A taste of Wales or perhaps Europe at large, right in the comfort of your own kitchen. Welcome back to Berry Life, bringing you easy and delicious vegan and vegetarian recipes from around the world. Today we're making a hearty and luxurious French onion soup, a soup of humble origins and simple ingredients, elevated to the pantheon of culinary creations. So let's get started. We'll start with the aromatics. We'll use 2 to 3 cloves of fresh garlic and mince them fine. For the volume of soup we're making, we really don't need a lot, just a tablespoon. People have been making onion soup for thousands of years, dating as far back as the Roman Empire. The French onion soup started in the 17th century in France, made with simple, affordable ingredients. The modern version we're making, and is the most common now, started in the mid-19th century in Les Halles, the large open-air market in Paris at the time. In addition to that, we'll need 1 bay leaf, a sprig of rosemary, and 3 to 4 sprigs of thyme, which is about a tablespoon. We wrapped it in a bundle using one of the sprigs, so it's easy to remove from the soup. For the star of the soup, the onions, we're going to use the sweet variety. You can also use yellow onions as well. The sweet onions have a higher percentage of sugar, which will come in handy during caramelization. Here we have 2 large onions, and they weigh about 2 to 3 pounds in total. That's right, you heard it correctly. These are some jumbo hulked out onions. We're going to use a radial cut, which is pole to pole. Another popular cut for this soup is the cross cut. This exposes the ring here, which helps the onions caramelize faster. However, we like the radial cut, so we'll go with that. This should yield about 8 cups. We prefer the radial cut over cross cut because it doesn't disintegrate as much, and yields stringy onions we love in the final product. However, if making a velouté variant of the soup, where it's pureed, then cross cut would be better as it cooks faster. For this cut, we like to stand the onion up like this, and then rotate it, keeping the knife in the same general position. It yields these beautiful even petals. What is the onion's favorite exercise? Pilates. That's it. Our mountain of onion is ready. Traditionally, there is a crouton topping. For our crouton, here we'll use a rustic French bread over a baguette. The larger diameter will better cover the surface of the soup in the bowl, and will be a better landing pad for the cheese. This bread has a nice crust and a soft center. We'll slice it into 3/4 to 1 inch thick slices. The thicker slice allows for part of the bread to soak in the soup, and the rest of the crouton to stay nice and crunchy. This end piece right here, it goes by many names: heel, end piece, or in Scotland it's called the outsider. I just call it the chef's piece, as it's my favorite. In addition to the slices, we have a surprise pickup. This is called a French bread boule, or French bread ball. Using a paring knife, we'll use a sawing motion to go around the top and remove the lid. Then go around the edge to separate the crumb interior from the sides. And gently scoop out the spongy interior, using that sharp spoon hiding in the back of the drawer that you hoped would come in handy someday. Always being careful not to break through the crust on the sides or the bottom. There, we have a nice bread bowl with a perfect lid to go on top. For the interior we removed, we'll save that to dehydrate and grate into breadcrumbs. Now we'll transfer the bread pieces to our air fryer tray to toast the bread. An important step not to be skipped. And spray both sides with cooking spray. Helpful hint: place the tray on a baking sheet unless you want to get cooking spray all over the cutting board and the counter as we did. Then we'll place it into the air fryer on the toast setting and lightly toast. You can also do this in the oven under broil. This will help prevent the bread from getting soggy and breaking apart when in the soup. This is what we're looking for. Lightly golden and crunchy, while still soft on the inside. The bread bowl is nicely toasted on all sides. And as an added bonus, the entire kitchen smells like warm bread. With all the preparations done, let's make the soup. In a large pot over high-medium heat, we'll add extra virgin olive oil. And to it we'll add our mountain of sliced onions. We'll toss the onions in the oil until all the pieces are coated. Then we'll add 1/4 cup of water and close the lid. I know it seems counterintuitive, but the steam will heat all of the onions at the same time and actually speed up the cooking process and save time. Once the onions are tender, we'll add butter and stir it in. The butter will give it a velvety feel and a rich taste. Keep stirring to evenly coat all the onions with butter. Then move the onions to the center and allow them to caramelize. This is perfect. This is what we want to see. The onions are beginning to stick to the bottom and caramelize. The sugar is slowly being released from the onions and reacting to the heat, turning into delicious complex flavors. We'll bring the onions to the center again and pat them down. We keep doing this until all the onions are beautifully caramelized. Once the onions begin to brown, we'll combine a pinch of baking soda and a tablespoon of water. Then add it to the pot. This will lower the pH of the onions and extract more sugar, as you'll see. You can also use cream of tartar if you don't have baking soda. We'll give it a second to activate and then stir. There, this is what we're looking for. The onions are beautifully brown and caramelized. Now we'll add 1/4 cup of brandy to deglaze the pot, scraping up the fond that's formed at the bottom. The alcohol will actually burn off, leaving behind that wonderful taste. You can also use white wine for this, or if you're avoiding alcohol, just deglaze with vegetable stock. Next, we'll add in all the aromatics, starting with the garlic, along with a teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper, our bay leaf, that bundle of fresh thyme, and the sprig of rosemary. We'll gently stir for about 30 to 60 seconds to allow the herbs to infuse the fat. These herbs work to complement the sweetness of the onions without overpowering the other ingredients. and provide a more complex flavor and aroma. Then we'll add 6 cups of our homemade flavorful vegetable stock, made from various vegetable scraps and umami-rich mushrooms and kombu, along with 1 teaspoon of salt. We're only adding a teaspoon because the vegetable stock already contains some salt, and the soup will reduce a little, increasing the concentration of salt. Then we'll close the lid and bring it to a boil, and we'll boil for about 5 minutes. And lastly, we'll add in 1 tablespoon of balsamic vinegar and give it a stir. The flavor and the acid of the vinegar again counters and complements the richness of the soup, adding another dimension to the flavor profile. Now for a taste test. Perfect. The soup is sweet, savory, and fragrant. We'll just remove the stems of our herbs and the bay leaf before we take it off the heat and set it aside. French onion soup is typically served with a crouton on top and some cheese. For this soup, we're using Gruyere. This is a traditional and popular choice. However, we also use Swiss and even provolone. They're great melting cheeses. Here we have a pound, and we'll shred about half of it, using the largest option on the shredder. Now to assemble. We'll ladle in the soup to our favorite soup bowl, and leave a little space at the top for the toast. Now the toast for a risky landing. Next, we'll top it off with a generous portion of cheese. Then we'll transfer it to our tray. We'll also make our bread bowl by ladling the soup, adding the lid and topping it off with a handful of cheese. Now to the air fryer. We'll place it just under the broiler and broil until the cheese is melted with little brown spots and the soup is bubbling. That's it. This looks good. Now we'll top it off with a little bit more fresh thyme and dig in. Hope you enjoyed watching this video as much as we enjoyed making it. If you make this soup, let us know in the comments below how you liked it. Also, click that thumbs up button and share this recipe with your friends and family. And remember, subscribe to follow our channel. We upload recipes every week and you don't want to miss out. You can find the full recipe at our website at berryberrylife.com. Just type in French onion soup in the search bar. Oh man, it's insane how good this soup is. If you've never had French onion soup before, you have got to try this recipe. You don't know what you're missing. There you have it, French onion soup. A taste of French cuisine and a soup of the people, right in the comfort of your own kitchen. Thank you for watching. Enjoy! Today we're making roasted tomato soup with a secret ingredient from the East. Before we prep, preheat the oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Start by chopping tomatoes into quarters. These are going to roast so we can leave them in large pieces. If you don't have fresh tomatoes, you can also use whole canned tomatoes. The roasting process will really bring out their sweetness, almost like sun-dried tomatoes. We'll also chop a red pepper into large pieces, removing the stem, the seeds, and the veins. For the garlic bulb, slice off the top, exposing the cloves. We're also going to chop the onion into quarters. We don't need to be too careful about chopping these properly. Everything will roast and get blended to a smooth consistency. Place the onions and tomatoes in a large bowl and separate all of the layers of the onions. To the bowl, we'll add olive oil, along with salt and black pepper, along with the fresh basil, just broken by hand. To it, add the lemon juice, and give everything a nice toss, coating all of the vegetables with the olive oil and lemon juice mixture. On a baking sheet lined with parchment paper, spread out the vegetables. With the vegetables uniformly spread out, they'll roast evenly. To the baking sheet, add the large red peppers, along with the bulb of garlic, with the exposed cloves facing up. On the cloves, drizzle on some olive oil to prevent drying in the oven. When the oven reaches 400 degrees Fahrenheit, place in the vegetables for roasting. We're going to roast these for 1 hour. About 20 minutes in, we'll pull out the garlic to prevent drying. While we wait, let's make croutons. We can make use of some leftover bread. From a loaf, cut some thick slices. Now we'll cut these into long fingers, kind of like French fries. On a baking sheet lined with foil, lay out the bread pieces. Drizzle on some olive oil, along with salt and Italian herbs. Toss all the bread pieces, making sure to coat all of them with the olive oil and the herb mixture. And then lay them flat to toast in the oven. We'll place them in the oven after taking out the vegetables. It's been about 20 minutes. Let's take out the garlic bulb. It smells amazing. Push the vegetables back in so they can finish roasting. It's been an hour and the vegetables are done. There's a lot of steam from all the moisture escaping the vegetables. Let them cool for a few minutes. In the meantime, place the croutons in the oven and let them toast for about 5 to 10 minutes, flipping them halfway through. While the croutons are toasting, we can finish the soup. In a large pot or a Dutch oven over high-medium heat, add in the vegetable stock along with the roasted vegetables. Be careful not to splatter. To the pot, add all of the spices. That garam masala is just going to add another layer of smokiness. Give everything a nice stir. Combine all those spices in the vegetable stock. Then add the roasted garlic, right from the bulb. Combine everything thoroughly and bring it to a boil. Let it boil for about 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, we can use an immersion blender or a regular blender, blend everything to a smooth consistency. This does take a few minutes. Once the soup is blended, we'll add the coconut milk and turn off the heat. Save a little bit of that coconut milk to drizzle on top of the bowl. That's it. The soup is done. Go ahead and ladle it to your favorite bowl. I can't wait to try it. I can already smell the amazing spices. There you have it, roasted tomato soup and some homemade croutons. Welcome back to Berry Life, bringing you easy and delicious vegan and vegetarian recipes from around the world. Today we're making Manchow soup with air-fried noodles, a hot and spicy soup full of veggies. It's hearty and comforting, especially for the cold winter months. So let's get started. Bringing a pot of water to boil, we'll add some salt and toss in our wheat noodles and cook to package instructions. Then rinse it under cold water and dry them as much as possible. You can also buy chow mein noodles at the store. However, we like to learn and do things for ourselves as much as possible. Now we'll transfer the noodles to a foil-lined air fryer tray and spray it with cooking oil or cooking spray. Then give them a gentle turn and toss to ensure all the noodles are coated with the oil. We'll spread them out evenly and then onto the air fryer. We'll air fry at 375 to 400 degrees Fahrenheit until golden brown and crispy. Typically these noodles are deep fried. However, we prefer to use the air fryer when possible, as it's cleaner and healthier. There, the noodles are done, golden brown and delicious. Just listen to this crunch. Next, we'll prep the veggies, starting with the shiitake mushrooms. We've given these a thorough rinse and patted them dry with a kitchen towel. We'll remove the woody stems, which tend to be fibrous, and slice them into thin strips. If you don't have shiitake mushrooms, you can also use baby bella or button mushrooms as well. Then cross-cut them into a fine dice. For this soup, all the vegetables should be finely diced or brunoise. We'll need 1 cup of these shiitake mushrooms. Why was it difficult to have a conversation with the lady mushroom? Because she talked too much. There, that looks good. Then a couple of these long green chilies. We get these at the Indian grocery store, but they may be available in the Asian grocery stores nowadays as well. If you can't find these, feel free to replace them with a couple of Thai chilies, or jalapenos, or serrano. Next, a carrot. We'll snip off the ends and then cut them into sections. Then slice them lengthwise. Indo-Chinese cuisine became popular in the 1990s. Usually it's referred to as Hakka Chinese. This soup is named after Manchuria, a northeast region in China, but it's actually from a northeastern state of India called Meghalaya. How do you make gold soup? Put in 14 carrots. That's it. Now for a green pepper. We'll remove the top and the bottom. And we'll remove the seeds and the inner membranes, which tend to be bitter. Using a move I like to call the cartwheel. I've heard people say they don't enjoy cutting vegetables. I find it fun and therapeutic. Having a sharp knife and a good cutting surface really makes a difference. I love to learn different techniques for presentation and purpose. My wife loves this soup, especially at Indian weddings during the wintertime, where it's served hot directly from the pot at a soup counter with tons of noodles. What do you call a pepper that's always cold? A chili pepper. Next, we'll slice up a green cabbage. Cabbage is a bit of an essential vegetable for this soup. We don't need the entire head. Just this much should be enough. We'll slice them into strands and then chop them into tiny pieces. Did you hear about the customer who ordered at a restaurant? He called the waiter over and complained that everything he ordered turned out too tough. The waiter says, "Sorry sir, we can't take it back." So the customer asks, "Can you at least get me a soup knife?" Next we have a few green onions. We're going to use both the white and the green parts. For the whites, I like to slice down the length. This just helps them loosen up in the soup. Green onions are also referred to as scallions. Ultimately, they're the same plant. Sometimes they're also called spring onions, but spring onions actually have a larger bulb. As for the greens, we'll just use those for garnish mostly. I like the diagonal cut for this, a little bit fancy. Next, we'll need some shallots. If you don't have shallots, red onion will work just fine, or any onion really. Again, we want to get the cut as fine as possible. Shallots are more pungent than red onions, and we want to avoid biting into a large piece. Recently, my wife got me a pair of onion cutting glasses. They worked better than I had expected. Check out the video description box for a link if you're interested. Then, we'll also need some cilantro. This is an Indian soup after all. Just a rough chop should do. So we have our veggies prepared. Oops, almost forgot. We'll also add some green beans for an added bit of protein and substance to the soup. No matter how much we think to prepare ahead of time, there's always something that we remember at the last minute. Does that happen to you as well? This is one of our favorite soups, full of color and substance, and a boatload of veggies. That's it, our veggies are ready. Now we can make the soup. We'll add 2 tablespoons of cooking oil to a large pot over medium heat. We're using our favorite enameled cast iron pot, but any large pot should do. Then we'll add 2 tablespoons of minced garlic, 2 tablespoons of grated ginger, and our 2 chopped green chilies. We'll saute this for about 30 to 60 seconds until fragrant. Then we'll add the shiitake mushrooms and sweat those until tender. It should take about 2 to 4 minutes depending on the moisture level. It's important to keep stirring to prevent the mushrooms from overcooking and getting rubbery. Next we'll add the shallots and saute until softened, basically eliminating the sharpness and pungency. Then we'll add the green beans, carrots, green peppers, and the whites of the green onion. These are a bit tougher, so they will need a little more time to cook. Even though this is a soup, we want to avoid overcooking the vegetables and maintain their crisp bite. That's why we haven't added any salt so far, which tends to draw out too much moisture and steam the vegetables, thus overcooking them. With the other vegetables softened, we'll add the green cabbage, which needs the least amount of time to cook. Along with ground black pepper, we're adding about a teaspoon, but feel free to add more if desired. For the full written recipe, check out the link in the description box below, or on our website at berryberrylife.com. For a bit of spiciness and tanginess, we'll add this red chili sauce. We get this from the Indian grocery store as well. If you don't have this, feel free to replace it with oleg sambal or chili garlic paste. Next, we'll add some soy sauce. Here we have 4 tablespoons or a quarter cup. This is actually a combination of 3 tablespoons of light soy sauce and 1 tablespoon of dark soy sauce, which helps with the color. Then we'll quickly add our vegetable broth. Here we have 8 cups. So the ratio of vegetable broth to vegetables is roughly 2 to 1 by volume. So around 4 cups of vegetables and 8 cups of vegetable broth. If you don't have vegetable broth, you can just add water. We'll give it a stir and close the lid. Then set the heat to the highest setting and bring it to a boil. Once the soup comes to a boil, we can add the last ingredient, the cornstarch slurry, which is 4 tablespoons of cornstarch and 4 tablespoons of water. But before we do that, we want to stir the soup so it creates a current. Then, slowly add the cornstarch mixture. You really want to avoid adding the slurry all at once in the same location, which causes lumps. Now for a little taste test. That's perfect. Now we'll crank up the heat and bring it to a boil. And allow the soup to thicken up. This is what we're looking for. Then we'll turn off the heat and add some cilantro, saving some to garnish. That's it. The Manchow soup is ready. Let's serve it up. We'll ladle it into our favorite bowl here and top it off with some of our air-fried crunchy noodles. Oh man, the soup smells so amazing. I cannot wait to dig in. Along with some green onions and more cilantro. And a bowl for the wifey. If you're short on time and want to skip frying noodles at home, you can also buy them ready-made. There you have it. Manchow soup with air-fried noodles. A taste of Indo-Chinese cuisine in the comfort of your own kitchen. Let's talk chili. No, not the weather outside, even though it is cold. I'm talking about the stuff of country fair contests and cookouts. That stuff that the cowboys are always making over a campfire. I'm talking about beef chili. Vegan beef chili, that is. That's right, we're gonna make beef chili with plant-based protein. We're going to make a spicy, earthy, stick-to-your-ribs meaty chili with all vegan ingredients. So let's get started. For this recipe, we're actually going to make our own homemade chili powder. This has tons of flavor, and it's super easy to make. To make chili powder, we're going to need some dried chilies, along with some herbs and spices. We're going to use ancho chilies. These are poblano chilies, smoked and dried. We'll also use some dried Mexican chilies. These are spicier and will add a bit of color. Along with cumin powder. This is a classic chili powder ingredient. Paprika for more color and heat. Some coriander powder. Granulated garlic. Oregano for that earthier flavor. A little bit of thyme. And finely ground black pepper for even more spiciness. If you're making the chili on the same day, go ahead and add some corn tortilla chips. This will help thicken the chili. Traditionally, masa is used, but if you can't find masa, tortilla chips work just as well. Before we grind the chili powder, we're going to need to break the chilies apart into small pieces and toast them. Try to find the chilies that are still a little flexible. If they're too dry, then they've lost a lot of flavor. We want to get rid of as many seeds as possible, along with the stems. Removing the seeds helps during toasting. These seeds tend to burn, and that's not the flavor we want in the chili powder. As you can see, these chilies have a lot of seeds. In a large pot, we're using our Dutch oven here. Set the heat to low. Add the chilies. And toast the chilies until they're fragrant. This will take a few minutes. Keep stirring so the chilies don't burn. When the chilies are ready, the kitchen should smell like peppers. These look to be done. Let them cool for a few minutes before grinding. When toasted, you want the chilies to be crunchy. Add the chilies and the spices to the processor along with the corn chips and grind everything to a fine consistency. Since we're making the chili today, we'll also add the tortilla chips. If you're making the powder for storage, skip the tortilla chips. You can always grind the chips later directly into the chili. That looks great. The chili powder is done. Now we can move on to making the actual chili. This recipe is super simple with very few ingredients coming together in one pot. For this, we're going to need some onions and some garlic, along with oil and our homemade chili powder, can of pinto beans and a can of kidney beans, along with their canning liquid, which will help the chili thicken, along with a can of whole peeled tomatoes, which will puree. As mentioned, this is going to be a vegan beef chili. So replacing the beef, we're going to use plant-based Impossible protein. If you can't find this package, we have also tried making this with Impossible meatballs that we've cooked and crumbled, and salt to taste. Before we start cooking, let's go ahead and puree the tomatoes in a processor. If you already have pureed tomatoes, that's one less step. On the stove, heat up a large pot over medium heat. We love to use our Dutch oven for this recipe. Add some oil and let it heat up. Then add the Impossible plant-based protein. You'll be surprised to see how similar to beef this cooks. With a spoon, break the protein into crumbles and allow them to brown. We just don't want any large pieces. It doesn't take long to brown, only a few minutes. The protein doesn't come with a lot of salt, so we should add it now to give it some flavor. You'll notice some of the protein sticking to the bottom. That's called fond. It's a good thing. It'll add more flavor to the chili. Now add the onions and the garlic. And keep stirring like those cowboys. We want to let the onions and the garlic soften and allow the protein to absorb those flavors. We have even more fond forming at the bottom. More fond means more flavor. It's okay to be fond of the fond. With the onions and the garlic softened, we can add our freshly homemade chili powder. This seems like a lot of chili powder, but it's not. It's just a lot of flavor. Mix the powder into the protein and the onions, and you'll be rewarded with some beautiful color coming off of that chili powder. Keep stirring and allow the flavor of the chili powder to be infused in the oil. The fat is what carries the flavor. Now we can add the tomato puree and mix that in. Now we can add the pinto beans and the dark red kidney beans along with their canning liquid. That canning liquid will also help thicken the gravy, along with the tortilla chips. We'll also add 2 cups of water. This will help meld all the flavors together during cooking. Thoroughly mix everything and increase the heat to high and bring it to a boil. We'll cover it with a lid to bring it to boil even faster. It's been a few minutes. The chili should be boiling now. That's good. Give everything a nice stir and make sure nothing sticks to the bottom. Now we'll lower the heat to low and cook for about 30 minutes. Great thing about cast iron is it holds a lot of heat, and that heavy lid creates a pressure cooker effect. It's been about 30 minutes. Let's have a look. First thing you'll notice is the smell. It smells amazing, and it has reduced and thickened nicely. Now we'll add our secret ingredient, Chipotle chili peppers in adobo sauce. Chipotle chilies are smoked and dried jalapenos, and they come packed in a tangy, spicy adobo sauce. These take the chili to another level, with spiciness and smokiness and that little bit of tang. We'll give these a fine chop and toss them into the chili. Don't forget to add any of that leftover adobo sauce. It has lots of flavor, no need to waste it. So far, we haven't added a lot of salt. We wanted to wait for the chili to reduce. So now let's check for seasoning. This needs a little bit more salt. We'll give that a good mix. Now we'll close the lid and cook for another 15 minutes, allowing all the flavors to meld. After another 15 minutes, the chili should be done. This is perfect. We'll turn off the heat and allow the chili to cool before serving. If the chili looks a little thin, know that it will thicken even more as it cools. This chili looks and smells amazing. That thickness is what we're looking for along with the flavors. We're gonna ladle it into a large bowl that we have affectionately dubbed the chili bowl. And top it off with our favorite fixins. You have to refer to them as fixins and not toppings. It's the law of the chili. It's all very official. The cowboys would not approve. Today we'll add some red and green onions, along with some freshly shredded sharp cheddar cheese, with a heavy dollop of sour cream, and some cilantro for freshness. Let's dig in. It's pretty thick, really holds on to the spoon. Is your mouth watering yet? Just imagine these on some nachos or a vegan chili cheese dog. It's so smoky, spicy, with that tang from the adobo sauce and tomatoes. Just unbelievable. Well, not just unbelievable, impossible. You can also serve this on a bed of spaghetti, as a certain famous restaurant does in Cincinnati. With a mountain of shredded cheese. There you have it, the impossible vegan chili. Today we're going to be making leek and potato soup, or potato and leek soup. However you say it, it's going to be delicious. It's a one-pot recipe that comes together in minutes. We'll start by roughly chopping the chives. All of the vegetables will cook in one pot, so we don't need to be too concerned about how we chop the vegetables. Now we'll mince the garlic. The more we chop garlic, the more the garlicky flavor comes out. Now we'll roughly chop potatoes into even pieces. By cutting them into roughly same size pieces, you'll ensure all the potatoes cook evenly. Once cut, we'll place them in a large bowl of water to help prevent oxidization as well as remove excess starch. Slice the shallots into thin strips. The thinner the slices, the more oniony flavor will be infused into the oil. Finally, we'll chop the leeks. We want to get rid of the fibrous green part at the top, and then slice the leek open lengthwise. Cut only 3/4 of the way through. This will hold the leek together. During cleaning, under running water, clean all the dirt from the layers. Also be sure to wipe down the cutting board and your knife of any dirt. Now that the leeks are clean, go ahead and chop them finely. Heat up a large pot over medium heat. We like to use our Dutch oven for this. Add the olive oil and allow it to heat up. Then add the shallots. Once the shallots have softened a little bit, add the leeks. Allow the leeks to sweat a little bit. And then add garlic. Mix in the garlic and then add the chives. By adding ingredients one at a time, we're creating layers of flavor. This helps each ingredient shine in the final product. Oh man, look at those beautiful greens. Now we'll add a bay leaf to combat the sweetness and thyme for a floral note. At this point, we can rinse and drain the potatoes and any excess starch and add them to the pot. With the potatoes in the pot, now we'll add the vegetable stock. We'll give everything a nice stir and then add the salt and black pepper. Combine everything and bring the soup to a boil. At this point, we can increase the heat to high. Now that the soup is boiling, we'll go ahead and place the lid on top, lower the heat, and cook it for about 20 minutes. We want the potatoes to be fork tender. It's been about 20 minutes. Let's check the potatoes. Using a fork or a spoon, check to make sure the potatoes are cooked all the way through. That's perfect. We'll go ahead and turn off the heat, remove the bay leaf, and let the soup cool before we blend. The soup has cooled slightly, so we'll add it to our Vitamix and blend it to a smooth consistency. Due to the amount of soup in this recipe, you'll probably need to do this in 2 batches. Along with the chives we've already added, we're going to add some more for color and flavor. This is the perfect consistency. Now we can serve. We'll pour ourselves a healthy portion in a large bowl. This soup is creamy, it's velvety, without any additional butter or cream required. Not only is it healthy, but incredibly satisfying as well. We'll just top it off with some chives, along with a drizzle of truffle oil, and a few shakes of black pepper. There you have it, leek and potato soup. Today we're making a white bean and ditalini vegetable soup. Why ditalini? Because it's fun to say. We'll start by chopping some carrots. We can cut the pieces large. They don't need to be uniform, just roughly the same size. Everything will cook in the end. We'll also chop some celery. We'll leave it in the half moon shape. It looks better that way. Now we'll mince the garlic. And finally, we'll chop 2 onions. We leave the onions to the end because they make our eyes water. By slicing the onions horizontally and then vertically, you get small, even pieces because you're also separating the layers. With our vegetables prepped, let's go to the stove. Heat a large pot over medium heat. We're using a Dutch oven, but you can use your favorite soup pot. To the pot, add olive oil and allow it to heat up. Once the oil is hot, add the onions and let them sweat. By letting them sweat, you'll soften the onion flavor and allow the sweetness to be infused in the oil. Keep stirring until the onions begin to turn translucent. Now add the garlic and stir. You want to cook the soup kind of like lasagna, adding 1 layer of flavor at a time. With the onion and garlic combined, we'll add the carrots, the next layer of flavor. Now we'll add the celery. As mentioned before, this combination of onions, carrots, and celery is called a mirepoix in French, and it's the basis of many soups, similar to a roux for cream-based sauces. With the vegetables slightly cooked, now we'll add the aromatics. Go ahead and add the thyme, rosemary, and oregano. Now combine everything and allow the vegetables and the oil to be infused with the herbs. We'll add a teaspoon of salt now, then add the broth, which has salt in it. Allow that to cook, and then check for seasoning at the end, and add more if needed. We'll also add the black pepper. Give everything a stir, and then add the vegetable stock. We're going to add 4 cups. If you don't have vegetable stock, feel free to use water. A lot of vegetable stock recipes calls for mirepoix and the herbs we've added already. Give everything a nice stir. Then we'll add the cannellini beans. Before adding the cannellini beans, be sure to wash and rinse the beans. We're not going to use any of the canning liquid. Now add 4 cups of water and bring everything to a boil. The additional water is for the pasta we're going to add. If you decide not to add any pasta, skip the water. Once everything comes to a boil, lower the heat to low and add the ditalini. This pasta takes about 7 to 8 minutes to cook. Stir the pasta so they don't stick. Cover the lid and allow the pasta to cook for about 7 to 8 minutes. Halfway through, check on the pasta. Make sure they don't stick to the bottom. It's been a few minutes. The pasta should be done. Let's check. The pasta appears to be perfectly cooked at al dente. You don't want to overcook the pasta. The pasta will continue to plump while in the soup, and if overcooked, they'll get all mushy. It's not what we're going for here. We'll also check for seasoning. This needs more salt. We are done with the cooking. Finally, We'll go ahead and turn off the heat and add the lemon juice. That should be it. The soup is done. This soup is so refreshing and just perfect for a snowy day. You can top it with croutons or your favorite herbs. Oh man, this looks so good. The onions are perfectly translucent and intact. The carrots and celery are bright and vibrant, adding a pop of color. They still have a bite to them. And the cannellini beans add some body and substance. Today we're going to top it off with a sunny slice of lemon and a twig of thyme. There you have it, white bean and ditalini vegetable soup. Super easy and fun recipe. You can make it for yourself or for the family. It scales very easily. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the full written recipes, check out the video description box below or visit us at berryberrylife.com. Also remember to subscribe as we upload easy and delicious recipes every week. And be sure to check out our other great recipes on the channel. Thank you for watching. Enjoy!